Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Andrew Heaton.
Well, Senator Mike Lee's bill to allow the federal government to sell off excess land that it owns has recently become controversial, as many conservative influencers are now speaking out against it, claiming, falsely I would add, that the bill would lead to the closure of national parks. Now, on the defensive, Lee appeared on Charlie Kirk Show to explain what critics of the bill he thinks are getting wrong. Take a look.
And that's Saguaro National Park in right outside of Tucson. That is probably Yosemite, if I'm not mistaken. And that there is also Yosemite and or Yellowstone. One of those is Yellowstone. Okay, so Senator, and then that's the Redwoods. Senator, just to be clear, you're not talking about these national parks, right? Because that's the propaganda that is being used. Okay, so please just throw it down and separate fact from fiction here.
Exactly. And so we've specifically exempted that category of protected land and like 15 others from it. Moreover, I would add, Charlie, even if that weren't in there, and it's a categorical exclusion, that land still wouldn't be appropriate for use with housing. And so, again, we're talking about a tiny subset of the federal land footprint. And if you boil all this down and you look at those who are most fervently opposed to this bill, you ultimately come away with an absolutist message, a message that says basically the federal government may not reduce its federal land footprint by even a fraction of 1% or even a few acres, because to do so would just be horrible. That cannot be the case. That must not be the case. This land is owned by the U.S. government. Not all of it is appropriate for conservation, for hiking, for recreation, for hunting. And some of it really is most appropriate or only appropriate for use in the housing area.
So I've been starting to pay more attention to this issue over the last week or so, and I'm becoming very angry. I think this bill has been really pathologically misrepresented on social media by, in some cases, by conservatives, and in some cases, conservatives that are even libertarian-leaning or have billed themselves as libertarian-leaning.
Zinke, the previous Secretary of the Interior.
Indeed, the American Conservation Coalition, which is it bills itself as a kind of environmentalist group, but is conservative and free market-oriented, has been dead set against this, has been trying to poison everyone against it. It does not allow the beloved national parks to be sold off. All it does is recognize that the federal government owns a massive amount of land. In some of our western states, it owns the majority of the state. And this bill will, under certain circumstances, it has to succeed on tons of criteria, allow the federal government to no longer be the administrator of a small amount of that land that could be suitable for housing. If it's not suitable for housing, then it's not going to get sold. If it's a precious, brook where a lone wolf swims across it and fishes and, it's that kind of thing, it's not going to get sold. And to misrepresent the issues, that's what's happening, is it's people trying to stop any progress whatsoever, progress that conservatives and libertarians should embrace. We need to build more stuff. Doesn't mean we're going to totally pave over all of our beautiful American countryside. We can sell a small amount of it. If anything, the real criticism of this bill is that it doesn't go far enough because it's really restrictive in what could be sold. So I would turn this back to any conservative who's suddenly against this because some influencer that's paid by a left-wing activist group, by the way, the funding for the group I mentioned, I looked at it, is from a lot of left-wing groups. If you're falling for that, you're getting duped. The real criticism is that it's too limited in what we'll be able to sell off. Why does the federal government need to own it? Can't the states administer it? Private people who might know more about how the land should be handled, but it's got to remain the federal government's property because these people said so. It's not serious to me.
Yeah, I think it's a religious argument. It is an argument that there is as Senator Lee said, an absolutist position that either we have all the land or none of the land. There's an idea that there's a sacredness which is being infracted upon by virtue of that. I'm an avid camper. I have a 13-foot fiberglass camper in my driveway right now. I love camping in national forests. I camp in Bureau of Land Management land. I camp a lot. I bring my dog Wallace with me. I really I love the great outdoors. I love
You
camping.
bring your dog to the office sometimes.
I bring my dog to the office
because
sometimes.
You're homeless.
Yeah, because we live with the camper. It's getting too hot.
Great.
But I'm out there. I avail myself. I like the National Forest Service. It's one of the agencies that I like of the U.S. government. I think they do a pretty good job, actually, at least in my run-ins with them. A lot of the land that is owned by the Bureau of Land Management is not pristine camping area that I'm going to go with my dog on. It's land that nobody wanted back when the federal government assumed control of it. The amount of restrictions, as you note, are myriad. We're not talking legally. We're not discussing national monuments. We're not discussing national parks, any protected wilderness areas, any fisheries or hatcheries, or any land that has mineral or grazing rights that are already established on there. That knocks out basically all useful land that is ecologically important. What's left is, I've camped in it, wide swaths of brush grass. Mm-hmm. It's just brush grass. And the bill further stipulates that you can only nominate these chunks of land. It's not authorizing a mass sale. It's a nomination process where you can say there's this area outside of Salt Lake City that we want to develop into a suburb. You can then approach the Secretary of the Interior, who can then authorize the sale. It's a nomination process. But even then, it has to be within 2.5 miles or 3 miles of a population center, depending on whether it's national forest land or whether it's Bureau of Land Management land. So it's not way out there. It's not in the middle of the wilderness. Legally speaking, it has to be within 2 to 3 miles of.
And Doug Burgum is going to have veto power over each and every little decision. I know the enemies of the bill keep saying this is going to allow the Chinese to buy huge swaths of the American countryside. Foreign actors buying land can always be vetoed by executive order, by Trump,
also,
and Burgum is reviewing it.
It's real easy to expropriate that too. The Chinese already own a lot of farmland, and they're not salting the earth. If we ever get into a spat with China, we just go expropriated. Sorry, gang. I'll take their money. The problem that I have with the bill is of a different sort. The biggest problem with housing in America is zoning.
Yes.
It's zoning and minimum lot sizes. That's the biggest problem in America. That's what we need to tackle. I think I would vote against this bill.
Really?
Yes, because it is.
It has too much zoning requirement.
It is exacerbating that problem. Mike Lee's gone out of his way to assuage fears of suburbanites.
Because he's trying to keep all these people happy enough with it by putting all these restrictions
on. So what he said is this is only for single-family homes.
Yeah.
By law, you can only build single-family homes. Where I would change it is go, first of all, I wouldn't make that. I would say housing's fine. I don't mind that we're only making it for housing instead of strip malls or whatever. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. We need more housing. But I would remove that. What I would do is say, if you want your community to avail itself to these opportunities, you have to change what you're doing in your community. You need to allow accessory dwelling units. You need to allow up to triplexes in an area. Most U.S. American cities are about 80% single-family occupancy. You look at any map of any major city, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Los Angeles, Seattle, all of them, 80% of it is single-family occupancy. So change that, and then we'll allow you to expand. But we're not going to just prolong the problem by letting you buy more land to use in a fascist zoning code where I tell you what to do with your private property to make my house worth more.
I think I agree with that. In an ideal world, I would certainly prefer that version of the bill. But in the meantime, I really just worry about this being taken down by people who don't want any development whatsoever, who just want no new housing. And, and Senator Mike Lee is someone I have, not been shy about criticizing even lately for some of his tweets. On this one, I think he's just being so unfairly attacked by people who
I agree with you on that.
Who do not have the best interests of the country in mind in terms of the things we have to build.
If we're in some alternate universe where you and I are the senators, the senior and junior senator from Soave, you might be able to convince me on this one because I am a zoning truther. It is a big thing for me. That being said, though, the criticism that Mike Lee is receiving, I agree. It is people trying to get you to think of Fern Gully being bulldozed. And the idea that all federal land is holy and sacred.
Which is a left-wing concern, which is why it's so weird to me that right-wing groups are adopting that framing. It was weird to me until I started looking at where some of their funding was coming from, and it was actually coming from left-wing groups.
So I've not seen Ryan Zinke's statement on that, but Ryan Zinke was Secretary of the Interior under Trump. I'm surprised that he's come out so vociferously against this. I don't know the answer to this. Do you know why he's opposed to it?
I don't know. Maybe he really liked the movie Fern Gully.
I don't know.
Maybe he was motivated.
Another thing we should add to this, one of the other provisions that's part of this bill is state and local polities have right of refusal, have right of purchase on this. So
there's so many veto points for anything here to be done.
If there is a beautiful trail and it's truly gorgeous and it will be a loss of recreational opportunity and the splendor of our natural environment, the state of Utah can purchase it and make it a state park, or a city could do it. There's lots of different ways to handle it, but I think the idea that you're destroying Yellowstone is really an unfair missile.
Right, because it's the federal government too. That's a good point. I don't know why conservatives wouldn't adopt the idea that, well, at the very least, shouldn't this land be owned by the state, the state of Utah or whatever Western state it is? Don't they know how best to use this land when compared to the federal government? That should be a area where conservatives and libertarians should especially find common ground. And
you can do different. Like people in Montana apparently don't like this. Okay, leave
it the way it is.
That's fine. Leave it the way it is. Yeah, and we've done this before too. Harry Reid back in the 90s or the 2000s did this in Nevada, where lost like 80 or it's either 60 or 80% of Nevada is owned by the federal government. It's Utah, Nevada. I can't remember which one's which, but it's 80 and 60% of the land's owned by the federal government.
It's 80 is Nevada.
Is it 80? 80 is a lot.
Yeah.
Of the state to be owned. A lot of people would say it's a majority, and I wouldn't even disagree with them. And so Harry Reid, what he wanted to do is get more breathing room for Las Vegas, which makes sense. And so they made a deal where the federal government would relinquish or sell some of its land to Las Vegas. The proceeds of it would be put in Nevada's parks system so that it would actually go to ecological preservation and would allow the metropolis to expand. I don't think anybody, granted, you could hate Las Vegas, but I don't think that the area that it expanded into had been a rainforest. It had been badlands out in the middle of the desert.
Nah. I always have a good time in Las Vegas. It'd be fine if it got.
I like it. It's a city founded on fun. You go to most cities and you're like, what was your city founded on? They're like, killing Indians. And you're like, oh, I don't like that bit. How about this one? Slate. We sell slate. How about Las Vegas? Blowjobs and gambling.
Oh, and like most libertarians, I love magic.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of great
yeah.
And you thought I was going to say
That's right.
something else.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching Free Media this week. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to let us know how we did. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about that scamp, Andrew Heaton, and we'll be back next week.